All right, everybody, hold on to your holsters. We're about to dive into the saga of the Colt 1911. This semi-auto legend did not just set the standard, but it basically strutted into history like a gunslinger with a bad attitude and even better aim. Designed by a genius with a mustache, the 1911 is the sidearm that made revolvers look like they were still hitching horses. So pour some bourbon and channel your inner cowboy, and let's ride through some history of steel, grit, and 45 ACP glory that's more American than apple pie and bald eagles. My name is Dwayne with Hunt Shoot Live. This is gun history. So the Colt 1911 story begins in the late 19th century when the U.S. Army decided that its revolvers, like the 38 long Colt, were about as effective as throwing rocks in combat. The Spanish-American War in 1898 and the Philippine-American War 1899 through about 1902 exposed the need for a hard-hitting, reliable sidearm. And enter the picture, John Moses Browning. I won't make the mistake of saying a guy you've probably never heard of before. I said that once sarcastically, and tons of people can't take a joke. So I know you've heard of him. I know he was important. So enter the picture, John Moses Browning. He obviously, for those maybe who don't know, he was a firearms genius whose brain was basically a gun factory, and most of what we have today is probably thankful to him. But Browning, working with Colt's manufacturing company, started designing a semi-automatic pistol in the 1890s, building on his earlier work with models like the Colt M1911. By 1906, Browning's design evolved into a pistol chambered for God's caliber, the 45 automatic Colt pistol, or 45 ACP. It's a beefy round designed to stop enemies cold for sure. The pistol featured a short recoil operation, single action trigger, and 7-round detachable magazine. After some grueling trials against competitors at the time like Savage and Luger, the U.S. Army did adopt the automatic pistol, caliber 45 M1911. That was on March 29th, 1911. That rugged design, the steel frame, grip safety, manual safety, made it a soldier's best friend, ready for mud, blood, and whatever else the war threw at it. The M1911 hit the ground running in World War I, proving its worth pretty quick in the trenches of Europe. That 45 ACP round delivered some pretty significant knockout power, and the semi-auto action allowed for much faster follow-up shots than revolvers. Soldiers praised its reliability even in muddy conditions, and its accuracy at 25 yards made it pretty deadly in those close quarter combat situations. Colt and Springfield Armory churned out over 600,000 M1911s by the year 1918, and the pistol also seen use by officers, MPs, and special units. It was handed out quite a bit. World War II cemented the 1911's legend with over 2.7 million units produced by manufacturers like Colt, Remington, Rand, and Ithaca. Armed GIs across Europe, Africa, and the Pacific, and pretty much everywhere. The slightly updated M1911A1, introduced in 1924, added a shorter trigger, arched mainspring housing, and better sights, and kept the core design though. From storming Omaha Beach to fighting in Iwo Jima jungles, the 1911 was a trusted sidearm by pretty much everybody. Infantrymen, pilots, even tankers. Its stopping power was so revered, stories of its halting charging enemies became military folklore. 1911 soldiered on through the Korean War and the Vietnam War, remaining the U.S. military standard sidearm. In Korea's frozen hills and Vietnam's humid jungles, it proved really durable, though it did weigh 2.4 pounds, and that 7-round capacity started to feel pretty dated against newer designs like the 9mm Beretta 92. Special forces, like the Green Berets, did favor the 1911 for its reliability and its power, often customizing it with aftermarket grips and sights. By the 1980s, the U.S. military did seek some higher capacity in a lighter pistol, and in 1895, the Beretta M9 replaced the M1911A1 as their standard sidearm, ending its official service. However, the 1911 remained in limited use with the elite units like Marine Force Recon, and it saw action in conflicts including the Persian Gulf War. Foreign militaries, including the Philippines and Argentina, continued using licensed or surplus 1911s, and its design influenced pistols worldwide. Post-military, the Colt 1911 found a new home in civilian hands, like mine and my grandfather's. Its sleek design and historical cachet made it a favorite among shooters and collectors and gunsmiths. Colt introduced commercial models like the Enhanced series with upgraded triggers and finishes, and companies like Springfield, Kimber, Wilson Combat offered custom versions with match-grade barrels, ambidextrous safeties, tactical rails, you name it. The .45 ACP remained popular because, of course, it is God's caliber, and though variants like 9mm and 40 Smith & Wesson, and this particular beauty right here is actually 38 Super. Those variants are out there. We all know .45 is the best. The 1911 dominated competitive shooting. Its crisp trigger and accuracy shone out. Hunters used it for backup against big game. Became a concealed carry staple for those who are men. The aftermarket exploded with parts like grips and slides and frames, turning the 1911 into a customizable icon for sure. By the 2000s, the 1911 was less a gun and more of a lifestyle. Got a pretty big fan base there, with clubs and forums debating the best builds and everybody arguing which one's the best and why everything else is garbage. At this point in time, the Colt 1911 is a living legend, and I am so proud to have one in my hands, and I would love to know all the history behind this thing, and unfortunately I don't know a lot of the history behind this, other than my grandpa had it and it ended up in my hands. Still produced by Colt and countless other companies. There's plenty of modern versions, the Colt Railgun, Springfield Operator. They got Picatinny rails and night sights and lightweight frames. There's blending old school charm and new school tech. Just pretty much anything for everybody out there at this point in time. The pistol thrives in competition, self-defense, collecting, pristine World War II models fetching thousands at times at auctions. Its influence is obviously seen in many modern pistols, the SIG P220, the Glock 21. Those borrowed its ergonomics and reliability. The 1911 appeal lies in its timeless design. It's simple, it's tough, it's powerful. Over 3 million military 1911s were made, and civilian production continues unabated at this time. From Hollywood, like think every war movie ever, to gun safes across America, the 1911 remains a symbol of rugged individualism. Whether you're a cop or a competitor or just a guy who likes big bullets and beautiful firearms, the 1911 has your back, assuming you can handle the recoil. So there it is, the Colt 1911, century plus of kicking butt and taking names from Browning's brilliant brain to the battlefields of 2 world wars and every gun range in between. This pistol did not just make history, it wrote it in .45 ACP. It is the sidearm that laughs at trends and scoffs at the 9mm fanboys. It still does look cooler than you in a leather holster. So the next time you're fondling your 1911, give it a wink and a nod for outlasting fads and foes. Now go practice your draw. We all know you need it. My name is Dwayne. This is Hunt Shoot Live. Thanks for sitting with me for some gun history.